Welcome to our latest Wandering Walks of Wonder adventure. Today we're headed to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Chattanooga serves as the urban heart of Hamilton County, Tennessee, nestled beside the Tennessee River and sharing its border with Georgia. It's the fourth largest city in Tennessee and also one of the largest cities in an area encompassing southeast Tennessee, northwest Georgia, and northeast Alabama. As we go along the walk today, we'll learn about the history of Chattanooga, but its most historical significance dates back to the American Civil War, where its strategic railroad junction played a crucial role. Post-war, Chattanooga's railway connections catalyzed its transformation into a major industrial hub within the southeastern United States. Presently, its economy thrives on diverse sectors such as automotive, advanced manufacturing, food and beverage production, healthcare, insurance, tourism, and corporate headquarters for many companies. Our first stop on the tour is the Joel W. Solomon Federal Building and United States Courthouse. Ruben Harris Hunt was one of the most important and prolific architects in the South in the early 1900s. In his home base is Chattanooga, he designed every major building constructed in town between the Victorian age in 1895 and 1935, when Art Deco was all the rage. This particular building was his last major work and constructed in 1933 as the U.S. Post Office and Courthouse. The building's made of white marble highlighted with aluminum art moderne details to create this epic 5-story structure with flanking pavilions. Ahead of us is the Walden Security Building, also known as the Emerson Building. When the Emerson Building was constructed, it was in a class of dual functional office buildings until 1991, when it was renovated to become the headquarters for the Chattanooga Times. Part of the facelift included stainless steel retro elements on the facade to give it an elegant art moderne appearance in line with the town's outstanding model of form. This is just across the street from the old post office. Geographically, Chattanooga straddles the transition between the Ridge and Valley Appalachians and the Cumberland Plateau, both integral parts of the expansive Appalachian Mountains. It's aptly dubbed the Scenic City, and its official nickname pays homage to the picturesque mountains, ridges, and valleys surrounding it. Informally, it goes by several other nicknames, including River City, Chattanooga, Chattown, and Gig City, the latter boasting of its reputed status as the provider of the fastest internet service in the Western Hemisphere. To our left is the Patton Hotel. The Patton Hotel was Chattanooga's first large-scale skyscraper when it opened in 1908. It was the kind of guest house that United States presidents and Hollywood stars checked into and helped define Chattanooga as a major league city. Newspaper publisher and civic booster J.B. Pound had agitated for such a hotel for years and was finally able to convince industrious Zeebaum Carter Patton to finance the hotel, and it cost about $650,000 at the time to construct. This L-shaped hotel, in fact it would pick up another wing in the 1920s, featured a bowling alley, billiard room, ballrooms, and private baths, which was a rare touch of luxury at the time in 225 of the 250 rooms. Like most of its grand urban hotel cousins, the Patton fell on hard times in the 1970s, losing its ornate cornice and being converted to a residence for the elderly. In the 1890s, when the government wanted to erect an imposing public building, this brawny Richardsonian Romanesque style building was constructed here as the United States Custom House. It boasts such hallmarks as the style as a rough-faced stone, powerful entry arches, as well as turrets. More than 100 years later, the building still houses some federal courts. Ruben Harrison Hunt designed this four-story municipal building in 1908 with a U shape, which helped bring ventilation to the offices. The city spent $30,000 for the land and another $156,000 for the building that housed every department of city government, including a jailhouse. This neoclassical gem received a complete facelift in 2006 that restored many of Hunt's interior details to the building, although the original form of the building was altered during renovations as it brought about modern amenities such as air conditioning in 1968. Ahead of us and to our left is the Tennessee Valley Authority building. Seeking a way to wrench the country out of the Great Depression, President Franklin Roosevelt asked Congress to create a corporation clothed with the power of government but possessed of the flexibility and initiative of a private enterprise. The Tennessee Valley Authority was established in 1933 with a mandate to control flooding along the Tennessee River, but soon expanded into power generation and today is the nation's largest public power company. The actual headquarters for the TVA is in Knoxville, but the office that we see here is a regional office here in Chattanooga. Ahead of us is the Miller Plaza Waterhouse Pavilion. Miller Plaza was that first green space that we were walking through. The River City Company was created as a private nonprofit development agency in 1986 and operates Miller Plaza as a city park, a performance stage, as well as an event pavilion. Ahead of us and to our left is the Crystal Building. Rodney Davenport Jr. and J. Glenn Sherrill opened their first Crystal hamburger stand on the corner of 7th and Cherry Streets in 1932 at the depths of the Great Depression. Building on a foundation of cleanliness in its stores, Crystal grew into a chain of over 400 southern stores, cultivating a fanatical following in the process. They moved into this headquarters in 1979. Across the street is the Reed House. The history of guest services at this location goes all the way back to 1847 when Thomas Crutchfield built an inn here, which was at the time standing just across from a Union Depot. The Crutchfield House was swanky enough that Jefferson Davis stayed here after resigning from the United States Senate to head the Confederacy. Crutchfield sold the hotel before the Civil War, and the building survived the conflict as a Union hospital, only to burn to the ground in 1867. John Reed and his son Samuel then built Chattanooga's finest hotel on this spot, a building that was replaced in 1927 with the current 10-story Georgian brick pile structure that we see that's dressed in terracotta tiles. Luminaries such as Winston Churchill, Gary Cooper, and Al Capone signed the guest book over the years. But not all who checked in checked out. In the 1920s, a woman named Annalisa Netherly was killed in the middle of a romantic misadventure, and her spirit is reportedly still seen in the hotel today. Ahead of us is the James Building. Charles E. James was raised and educated in Chattanooga and made his fortune in iron and railroad supplies. He was instrumental in organizing the Chattanooga Gas Light Company, the Union Rail Company, and was the driving force in damming the Tennessee River to supply power. In 1907, he built Chattanooga's first skyscraper here using plans from Ruben Harrison Hunt. Hunt followed the standards of the Chicago style of skyscraper building in making a high-rise in the image of a classical Greek column with a defined base. The tall building that we see ahead of us is the McLennan Building. The Provident Life and Accident Insurance Company began writing policies in 1887 for high-risk workers such as miners, railroad workers, and lumber mill hands. By 1900, the company was in the hands of Thomas McLennan and growing into a national multi-line insurance carrier. When it came time to move into a headquarters of its own, McLennan turned to Chattanooga go-to architect R.H. Hunt, who delivered one of his landmark designs in 1919 with an elegant shaft rising from an oversized collar fronted by a two-story ionic portico. To our left is the Thetiv Theater. The Rapp brothers, George and Cornelius, were the acknowledged leaders in theater architecture in America in the early decades of the 20th century. They had a long list of sumptuous entertainment palaces around the country on their resume. With $1 million budget here, the Rapps created what was called the, quote, Jewel of the South in 1921. Patrons walked under a high dome ceiling and crystal chandeliers on their way to the Tivoli's silent movies and live stage productions. In 1924, a $30,000 Wurlitzer organ was installed, and 2 years later, theatergoers were sitting in some of the country's first air conditioning. One of the beautiful commercial buildings in downtown Chattanooga is the Trigg Smart Building. This heritage building from 1888 displays Romanesque styling in stone along the Broad Street facade and brick along the 7th Street elevation. The most famous tenant showed up in the early 1900s when the Fowler brothers moved their furniture business here. One of the oldest businesses in Tennessee, the company traces its roots back to 1885 when James G. Sturchey was peddling housewares from a buggy pulled by his blind horse. A Sturchey son-in-law, John O. Fowler, joined the enterprise in 1911, and in 1930 he incorporated Fowler Brothers Company with his brothers Frank and Ben in Chattanooga and Knoxville. The Fowlers have long since vacated these premises, but the family business trundles on with its 5th generation at the wheel. Although Ruben Harrison Hunt displayed his architectural versatility with every manner of building on the Chattanooga streetscape around the South, he was best known for his work with hundreds of churches to his credit. Many times he donated to services so cash-strapped congregations could have their building made. Hunt often used the Gothic Revival style in his church work, as we see here at the Second Presbyterian Church. This church was constructed in 1890 and is one of his earliest projects. Ahead of us is the Miller Brothers department store. Gustavus Heinemann Miller was born on a rural ranch on the Texas frontier in 1857, but came east to the homeland of his father to begin his business career in eastern Tennessee as a country store clerk at the age of 20. By 1889, Miller and his brother Franklin were ready to move to Chattanooga and set up shop here along Market Street, dealing in distressed merchandise. The enterprise was a success and continued to expand. The tall building we see here on our right is the First Tennessee Bank Building. Hidden underneath this dark brown metal skin is a classical creation of Ruben Harrison Hunt, who, as we have learned, is the master builder of Chattanooga. Hunt designed the 17-story Beaux Arts Tower as the tallest building in town for Hamilton National Bank in 1911. When First Tennessee moved in during 1966, it modernized the structure with the look that you see today. Another historic commercial building here is called the Central Block Building. When this Italianate-influenced commercial building appeared on the Chattanooga streetscapes in 1883, it introduced the town to the decorative flourishes of the Victorian age. It has been called the first pretentious building to go up on Market Street. In 2003, the United Way finished a complete restoration of the building, including fanciful window hoods, an ornate cornice, as well as fancy brickwork. The 9-story building that we see here on our left was once the Park Hotel. This 9-story hotel is another legacy from Ruben Harrison Hunt that was constructed in 1915. The building was renovated by Hamilton County for office space, but you can still get a sense for Hunt's handiwork on the lower level. On the corner is Elk Lodge number 91. The Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks evolved from a small New York City social club in 1867 known as the Jolly Corks. In 1887, the 91st Lodge of the fraternal organization was chartered in Chattanooga. After some 20 years of meeting around town, the Elks settled into this permanent home in 1907. The building was outfitted with carved hardwoods, marble, and bronze. Members could avail themselves of a bowling alley, an indoor pool, and apartments on the upper floor. In 1887, Henry Clay Beck was toiling as the Hamilton County Register when he saw a need for a company that would insure titles to newly purchased properties. In 1890, he created the Title Guarantee and Trust Company as the first title insurance company south of the Mason-Dixon line. It moved into this beautiful Beaux Arts home in 1925 and has operated here ever since. It is the only title insurance underwriter with its headquarters in Tennessee. Ruben Harrison Hunt tapped the symmetrical classicism of the Beaux Arts style for the county courthouse in 1912. It replaced an earlier building that had been victimized by lightning 2 years earlier. Working with a $350,000 budget, Hunt clad the courthouse in Tennessee gray marble, leading to a glazed-tile roof with a colored glass dome. The bust of Confederate General Alexander Peter Stewart was created by Tennessee native Belle Kenny Schultz in 1897. At the age of 7, she won first prize at the Tennessee Centennial Exposition for a bust of her father. Bradford Lee Gilbert, who is credited with constructing the world's first steel frame building in New York City in 1889, helped introduce the concept of a wedge-shaped building for irregular-shaped downtown lots with his English-American building in Atlanta in 1897, predating a similar and more famous Flatiron building in New York City by 5 years. Chattanooga's first Flatiron building that we see here came along in 1911. Across the street from us is First Methodist Church. Methodists first gathered in Chattanooga in a log meeting house at the corner of Lookout Street and Georgia Avenue in 1839. During the occupation by Union forces in the Civil War, congregants who had been members of Northern Methodist churches organized their own church, First Methodist Episcopal Church. They began work on a Gothic stone church in 1881, and it was dedicated in 1855. One of the standout buildings in the downtown area is the Dome Building. Adolph Simon Ox was working in a newsroom at the age of 11 in 1869 as an office boy for the Knoxville Chronicle. When he was 19, he borrowed $250 to purchase a controlling interest in the Chattanooga Times, becoming its publisher. By 1888, the Times was thriving, and Ox set out to build the town's tallest building to house his newspaper. He brought in Theodore William de Lemos and August Cordis from New York City, best known as the builders of Macy's and other iconic department stores, who created the six-story Italianate structure. Across the street from us is the Carnegie Library. After becoming the world's richest man, steel magnate Andrew Carnegie set out to give away his money. One of his pet projects was building public libraries, which many communities lacked at the beginning of the 20th century. Carnegie funded the construction of some 2,500 libraries around the world. Chattanooga received a $50,000 grant in 1900, and R.H. Hunt delivered a Beaux-Arts marble home for the library here in 1905. The building that we see here on our left was once the Hotel Ross. This building dates to 1888 when it operated as a boarding house. By 1925, it was spruced up as the Hotel Ross when on July 25th, William Jennings Bryan, three-time unsuccessful Democratic candidate for President of the United States, checked in for 5 days after arguing against evolution in the Scopes monkey trial. The next day he drove to Dayton, Tennessee to attend church, have lunch, and he died in his sleep that afternoon at the age of 65. The final building on our tour here is the Volunteer Life Insurance Building. Volunteer Life was another business founded by Zebulon Carter Patton, and he had this neoclassical headquarters constructed in 1917. The studios of Chattanooga's first television station, WDEF, were located here in 1954. Local programming included Drew Smith's House Party, Miller Brothers Style Show, and Henry C. Geiger's Children's Gospel Hour. One of the first locally produced shows on WDEF TV was Point of View. Still on the air, it is one of the longest-running local public affairs programs in the United States. I hope you've enjoyed this Wandering Walks of Wonder tour here through downtown Chattanooga. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and we will see you on our next Wandering Walks of Wonder adventure. Take care now. Bye-bye.